friends! My name is Desiree, aka Momma Friendly. I do all kinds of videos on this channel, from homeschool videos to planner videos, vlogs, hauls, cooking videos, a little bit of everything. So if any of these things sound like fun to you, I hope that you'll subscribe and join me on my YouTube adventure. Today's video is one that a couple people asked for, and I'm actually very glad to have the opportunity to bring you this video because I feel like it's been a long time coming and it's information that I love sharing anyways, so hopefully you will find this video both entertaining and informative. I will warn you, it might be a little bit on the longer side. You probably figured that out before you clicked it, but if you're here, I hope that all this information helps you out. And of course, if there's any further questions that you need answered, I'll do my best to either answer them in the comments or I can point you in the direction of resources that can help you out. A couple years ago, I did a similar video. I'll post the link to that up here in case you want to check it out. But basically, the video was called Why and How I Homeschool My Son with Nonverbal Autism. My son is now almost 10 years old. He is still nonverbal. He is still on the autism spectrum, along with a host of other medical complications. We've homeschooled him his entire life, and that was always the plan, even pre-diagnosis. But now that we have our diagnoses, it just makes all the sense in the world to continue to homeschool as long as we're able, because we're able to cater to his strengths while also giving him extra attention in areas that maybe he needs a little more help. In that original video, I basically just did an unboxing for some things that I was planning to use in that year's curriculum. This video is going to be a little bit different in that it's not an unboxing per se, because these are all things that I've purchased and owned for anything ranging from a few months to just a few days. However, I am planning to show you a bunch of things that we're planning to use this year for our homeschool, how I'm going to use them in our homeschool, and why I chose them for this year. Before I jump into the actual items though, I do want to say, first off, scattered throughout the video up here and in the description box below, I'm gonna have links to videos that I've made pertaining to speech therapy, occupational therapy, and physical therapy at home. And in the next few weeks, I'll have another video coming out that's specifically geared for people that have apraxia. My son is nonverbal due to apraxia, and we recently started a regimen, for lack of a better term, to help with that. But that video is going to have so much information that it didn't make sense to try to fit it in here. So keep your eyes peeled if that's something that's interesting to you. Like I said, it'll be probably 2 or 3 weeks, but it's coming. And once that comes out, I'll link it in the description box of this video as well, so that if you're coming to this video later, you'll be able to go find that easily. The reason I bring up therapy is because we are lucky and fortunate enough to have access to speech, occupational, and physical therapies through telehealth, among other things. There are other therapies that my son participates in as well, and they've all been able to happen in a socially distanced way as long as this pandemic situation has been going on. But if you're brand new to homeschooling, or if it's, your child is very young and you're just kind of thinking about it, the best resource I can point you towards is your child's own therapy team. If you feel like you don't have the relationship with them to be able to talk these things out with them, then please find a new team. But I've always had the luck, but also had the push to make sure that anybody that's going to have a hand in teaching my son and molding my son is in line with how I want him to learn and how he learns best. That being said, a lot of the things we do in homeschool are guided by what our therapists are already teaching my son. So I try to carry over whatever he's learning in therapy. So the reason I say they're one of your best resources is because whatever your child's already working on in therapy, you can use that to frame where you want him to go academically. So for example, if your OT is working on handwriting, and that's important in occupational therapy because it's a fine motor skill, you can practice handwriting at home. That also leads to learning letter recognition. It leads to learning word recognition. You can use that to learn sight words and spelling, reading. All of it all comes together in order to help your child be a better writer. By the same token, you have to have in mind what's important for your child to know, and don't be afraid to talk to your therapist about finding some sort of appropriate way to include that into their therapy goals. For example, occupational therapy deals with life skills. A life skill that you encounter all the time is being able to use money to buy things. If you're going to live independently, you have to be able to know how to use money, how to count out money, when it's appropriate to use money, and so on. Well, in order to do that, you have to have the foundation of counting. In order to count, you have the foundation of numbers and number recognition. So if your child is struggling with number recognition, that's something that your OT can help with, because if he doesn't have that foundational skill, how is your OT going to teach him to use money in the future? So that's what I mean about kind of interweaving and working with your therapists, not only to kind of get some academics put on the therapy schedule in an appropriate way, but also to take the therapy goals and use them as inspiration in your academics. You might have just heard my kiddo in the background. I also want to let you know that all year we've been doing our homeschool around Disney. So Disney movies, rides, characters. I've managed to create pretty much a year-long curriculum. By the time we're done with the series, there will be about 30 videos, which is more than enough to do a different theme every 2 weeks, and that's how we've done it. So if you're interested in that, I'll post a link up here. Every video has worksheets, has art activities, sensory activities, recipes, so you really can, I mean, we did, dedicate your entire year to learning through Disney movies. And what kid wouldn't love that? That's the magic of homeschool. You can take anything really and turn it into a learning opportunity. You just have to keep your eyes peeled. With all that being said, I'm finally ready to show you guys some of the items. This is not an exhaustive list. There are more things. And as the year goes on and I find perhaps new things that we need to tackle, I will probably add more things to the list. But for now, this is the plan. It's a lot of stuff, and I'm gonna do my best to link everything in the description box of this video. And if I happen to have discount codes or discount links, none of this is sponsored. This is all stuff I bought with my own money. None of this was given to me. But again, if I have a discount or something to share with you, I'll put that in the description as well. And yeah, let's get into it. So first things first, we have some books. And again, this is not exhaustive. We have many more books than this, but these are just some of the ones that we've been reading recently. Of course, they're all Disney because that's what we've been studying. But the thing about reading and the thing about books is that it doesn't really matter as much what your kids are reading, just the fact that they're reading. And if your children are pre-reading, so they're not quite there yet, they're not reading independently yet, just hearing you read so that they get to hear the words, pick up on the context clues as to what those words mean, that vocabulary acquisition, that's all super important for language. So whatever you're reading, make sure your kiddos are reading and you're reading with your kids. Very important part of homeschool. Speaking of books, I just picked up this one recently. It's called Cooking Class Global Feast by Deanna F. Cook, which I think is pretty funny. And it's a cookbook, right? But it's meant for children. And each page has a recipe from a different country, but they also teach you how to say hello and I'm hungry in the language of each of these countries. They have interviews with children that live in the countries of the food that you're eating. It's just a nice stepping stone for introducing your kiddos to other cultures. You could build an entire curriculum, honestly, and that's actually something that I'm considering. Once our Disney homeschool series is done, I might actually try to build out a whole curriculum based on this book. Like I said, learning opportunities are everywhere if you just keep your eyes peeled. So I'm thinking we might pick a country, do the recipe from it, but then take that opportunity to again, find documentaries on that country and learn about that country, child appropriate, of course. We can do activities or arts and crafts from that country. The only reason I'm not diving into that completely is because I want to make sure that I do it from a place of cultural appreciation and not appropriation. And that's a line that you have to be very intentional with. So if I feel like I'm able to do that and bring you guys that sort of information and curriculum in a respectful way, then that is what I will do. But in the meantime, we will be using this to continue our cooking and life skills in our homeschool this year. Here's another book, and this is one that we've actually had for a little bit. It's the Highlights, Write On, Wipe Off, Let's Write Letters book, and it's a dry erase book. Whoa. with mazes and, you know, games and things like that, but mostly it's meant to practice your handwriting. And that is something that we're working on right now actively, is getting my son's handwriting a little more stranger friendly, I guess is the way that I would put it, because right now it's at a place where I can recognize a lot of stuff that he's writing, but if I were to show you something he wrote, I don't know if you'd necessarily get it. So we're just trying to refine it, basically. We have this About Today board, and this is from Ryan's room. He picked it out, so I guess, you know, it wouldn't be my choice, but that's fine. Melissa and Doug also has something similar to this, but again, I'll try to link everything I can in the description box. And the reason that we're going to be using this year is so that we can start talking about the weather, the days of the week, what day of the month it is, and so on. The months here, the time, the clock, it's not as much of a priority right now. I feel personally it's more important for him to know things like the days of the week first. So we'll probably like go in stages. It's hard to ignore this big thing in the center here. But as he's ready for each individual part, we will incorporate more and more of the board into our daily routine. We have this Crayola color chemistry lab set. This is going to be a lot of fun for sensory and for science activities. And it brings all sorts of so you can make slime, you can make Play-Doh. So my son has a lot of sensory defensiveness around textures, but especially in this last year since he's been cooking with me so much, a lot of that has gotten much, much better. So I'm looking forward, especially there's an exploding volcano. I think he's gonna really like that. The slime I think might be a little trickier, but we won't know unless we try. So this is going to definitely be a lot of fun. I mentioned Melissa and Doug earlier. This is a Melissa and Doug product. It's called First Words Activity Pad. And I was really drawn to this because it has so many different things. So it teaches about rhymes. My son's not quite there yet, but I'm hopeful that this year we'll be able to get there. Opposites, weather, clothing. So we're basically labeling things here, and that's good for vocabulary acquisition and for generalizing concepts, because that way he'll not only know these are socks, but also these are socks, you know, so he can kind of generalize it to his actual environment. We're also learning to trace and write words. So again, it's like a different avenue towards a goal that we already had in mind. And this is another great thing about homeschooling, is that you've seen that I already have a lot of writing things up. There's a lot of sight word things in here. Case in point, this game here, we have all 3 levels. I'm just showing you level 1, but it's fishing for sight words, and it's a little magnetic fishing rod with a bunch of little tiny fish. And the idea is that I can call out a word and he'll have to discern it from the rest of them, find it, and then pick it up with his little fishing rod. So it's a game. He's gonna be having fun playing and not even realizing oh, he's also learning sight word recognition. But the interesting thing is sight words, writing words, reading, he's at that level for those types of language skills, even though he is nonverbal. But numerical concepts are still very, very tricky for him. So we're still working on number recognition. He's got down pretty much, but understanding that those numbers mean an amount, that's very difficult still. So this year we're focusing on the quantity behind the number and how much is this much, adding, subtracting, all of that. That's something that we're going to spend a lot of time working on this year. So I got him this little toy on Amazon, and it's basically a scale, but I thought it was cool because it's like weighted numbers and then a bunch of little frogs, which is cute, right? But the idea is that as many frogs as you put on one side, the number corresponds to that weight. So it's a game. So he's going to be focusing on the fun aspect, but he's also going to be learning and realizing, oh, this number of frogs, when I see this many, that means there's 3 of them. So this 3 is no longer just a squiggle on a paper, it signifies something. And, you know, he's learning it in a fun way rather than us just kind of drilling it over and over. I'm sure you've noticed by now that I'm not going in any particular order or even by any particular discipline. I'm just kind of grabbing things as I find them. Something else that we're working on this year, again, for language acquisition, vocabulary acquisition, and so on, is we've got this Learning Resources Classroom Play Food Set. I am actually going to keep a few of these because it's a lot, like it's meant for a classroom. So there's multiple pieces of each item. I'm gonna donate most of this to his therapy center so that they could use it with other kiddos. But I'm hoping to take, you know, one of each thing and keep it here so that we can kind of work on labeling. What's this? It's a pear. What's this? It's a strawberry. What's this? It's a steak. But then once he gets that down, now we can start looking at pictures online. We can look at people eating on TV. Oh, what's he eating? It's a steak. His own foods. What's this? It's a steak. So he's learning what a steak is, but he's also learning to recognize not all steaks look like this. Other people have different kinds of steak, and sometimes it's 2D, like in a picture. Sometimes it's 3D, like right in front of you. But I think that this is a good way to introduce the foods because, for example, I'm not gonna buy ice cream sandwiches every day just so that I can ask him, hey, what's this? But it does the trick, right? We have this consonant, vowel, consonant, word work center. I want to say that this is another Lakeshore Learning product. The last video I did that I'm doing a refresh of now was all Lakeshore Learning. We really like that site for their educational stuff. And if you're looking for more sensory type things, I covered that in the other video as well. But for sensory, we really, really love Fun and Functions website, just as an aside. This is, like I said, it's a CVC center. So each drawer brings a set of foam letters and a corresponding set of flashcards. So the way that it works is that you would start with this side that has the word written on it, and the vowels, as you can see, are a different color so that he's learning to recognize that A, E, I, O, and U are not the same as the consonants. Once he's practiced this enough and put S-U-N, S-U-N, and paired the picture of the sun, the word sun, and the sequence of letters, then you would flip it over, and as you can see, this side just has spaces. So at that point, he should be able, from memory, to be able to put the letters down without needing this guide or this prompt. And I really like that they broke it up into the 4 sections so that you can try to keep things somewhat organized, and you know that these letters correspond to these cards so that there's no like mixing things up or wondering where the things are when you need them, etc. More sight word things. You might sense a theme. My son seems to be really interested in this sort of stuff lately, and I find that the easiest things to teach are the things that he already has an interest in. And it's not a bad thing for him to learn his sight words, so why not? So this book is from Lakeshore, of course it is, and it's a daily activity journal. Of course, you don't have to actually do it daily, but if you did, it's 35 weeks worth of work. And it breaks down for you in the very beginning which words you're going to be using each week, which I think is really cool because I could use this as a guide as well for my CVC center. I can see if there's specific fish I need to pull so that it matches this week. So using all these different things, we're, again, from every angle, tackling the same goals in hopes that all of them together will really make the information stick. And then of course, as you get into the book, there's different activities, circling, writing, tracing, word jumbles and whatnot. So some of this stuff might be advanced for my kiddo, and that's fine. We'll do what we can, and what we can't, we'll save for another time, or we'll just ignore completely. We can do that because we're homeschoolers. Almost done, I promise. We have 2 different sets to use with our iPad. I'm thinking that they both do different things. I guess I'll have to report back and let you guys know. As a matter of fact, if you would want me to do more in-depth like unboxings and how-tos, how we use it, for example, that sort of thing, on either Square Panda or Osmo or both, let me know in the comments because I could probably put something together like that for you. But they're basically manipulatives that you can use with your iPad So like my son loves the iPad probably a little too much, but I can use that interest to my advantage and take these manipulatives, which he also really likes, and have him, you know, spell words, create shapes. There's a lot of things. I really do think that this probably merits its own video, each of these. So if you'd want to see that, let me know. But we are in fact using these this year as part of our homeschool. The idea is turning your screen into a multi-sensory learning system. And how could you go wrong with that? Last thing I have here is this Back to the Roots pepper planter. But we do have a few of these. As a matter of fact, I do have a Back to the Roots unboxing coming up in the next couple of weeks. I have a link for a discount. I'll put it in the description box of this video if you're interested. But last year we had an arrow garden. We actually have 3 arrow gardens and they're still going. And we used them actively as part of our homeschool. So this year I decided that we were going to continue our gardening studies, but we're going analog. So instead of doing hydroponics this year, we're actually starting our seeds in soil. And this is one of, like I said, many kits that we purchased for the year. So if you're interested in these, keep your eyes peeled because soon I'll have an in-depth unboxing. But in the meantime, if you can't wait, I do have a discount code for you guys in the description of this video. So that's all of the items that I have to show you today. And I'm telling you, you don't need to get all these things. You don't need to get any of these things. This is what I'm thinking based on what my son's already learning and where I want my son to be a year from now. This is what I'm thinking will help him get there. I'm in constant communication with my son's therapists so that we're back and forth and we're all supporting each other to get my son to our specific goals. If you don't have that sort of support system, because I know that that is a very big privilege that we have, even something as simple as going to Barnes and Noble and flipping through maybe 2 grades below your child and 2 grades above your child in all the little like workbooks that they sell, just leaf through them real quick and see like, okay, that looks like it's appropriate for my kid. That looks like it's out of reach, but not by much. Be realistic, be honest about your child and what your child can and can't do right now. Just because they can't do it yet, and that's a big yet, doesn't mean that they won't be able to soon. But you have to be honest about where they are so that you can be honest about what it's going to take to help them get there. So now that you've seen what we're planning to use, are you planning to maybe use any of these things? What are your schooling plans for this year? Is it your first time homeschooling? Are you not homeschooling but thinking about it? If you are a homeschooler, what's your favorite homeschooling resource? Let me know all of these things in the comments. I would love to hear from you guys. And like I said earlier, if there's any questions I didn't answer, or if you need more information on any given thing, let me know that in the comments too, and I'll do my best to either answer the questions myself or point you in the direction of a resource that can help. I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, I hope you'll please give it a big thumbs up. I'd also love it if you would subscribe and click that notification bell because I post at least 3 times a week and I wouldn't want you to miss a minute. Thanks so much again for watching. Bye!